What is up, HVACers? So, for today's YouTube video, I really just wanted to touch base on something I wrote a blog about yesterday. You can find all of our blogs on the Skillcat webpage, skillcatapp.com. So, the new refrigerant regulations for 2022. I'm hearing a lot of feedback from a lot of different companies that they're worried about what this is going to mean for us. So I really just wanted to kind of touch base on them. They're also written in a way that you wouldn't really understand, A, if you weren't in this field, but also, I mean, just like any bill or regulation, they're just written in a way that you're not really meant to understand. So I thought I'd kind of break it down for you guys a little bit. All right. So on the ERI, Energy Resources Integration LLC page, they kind of broke it down a little bit for us. So just to read the highlighted part here, starting in 2022, new refrigerant systems requiring more than 50 pounds of refrigerant. So more than 50 pounds. So small commercial, residential, you're not going to have to worry about this one so much. Primarily industrial and supermarket refrigeration systems will be required to use refrigerants with a GWP of 150 or less. This will likely result in the increase of the use of natural refrigerants in new systems. So we've got natural refrigerants, right, that we can switch to. So we've got 290, we've got propane, we've got 717, we've got all of these natural refrigerants that we're able to use, CO2, ammonia. So for everybody who is thinking, oh my goodness, we're going to have to come out with these new refrigerants and they're going to cost us more, and this crazy, insane amount of money that we're spending on refrigerant is going to last forever. That's not necessarily true, right? Because these natural refrigerants are actually made, by our Earth already, and they're already in our atmosphere, so they're not causing much of a GWP. So I also kind of want to go back for those of you who don't know really what's going on with this. So we used CFCs first. CFCs are chlorofluorocarbons. They are full of chlorine. For every chlorine molecule that's released into the atmosphere, we're killing 100,000 ozone molecules. We're literally robbing it of its oxygen. So it makes it not only heat up there, but it makes it harder for us to create the oxygen that we need to breathe, to live as humans. So that's really important to know. We switched from CFCs to HCFCs because they had a lesser amount of all ozone molecules that they were killing. However, it's still being used in a mass way that's killing just as many molecules at that point. So then we notice we have this huge hole blown in our ozone and we've got to fix it. What do we do now? So now what we have done is we've put out what's called HFCs, which are hydrofluorocarbons. And they are not harmful to the ozone because they don't have any chlorine in it, right? There's no chlora, so there's no chlorine. So our atmosphere is still affected because it still causes global warming. So each refrigerant is given a GWP rating. So to give you an idea, CO2 is the lowest at 0. So if you're starting at 0 and you've got a refrigerant that might have a 1400 GWP rating, you're not going to be able to fill systems with that anymore as of 2022 if it takes 50 pounds or more. So you're going to have to switch to something retrofit or replace. So places like Lennox, manufacturing companies, are refusing to put out any new equipment until after these regulations are put into place, because say they put something out with 410 and it's used for a giant application and then they can't use it in a few months. So that's just to touch base on what this first rule kind of means. But again, we have natural refrigerants and we have hydrofluorocarbons, which are much better for the atmosphere. The hydrofluorocarbons is where we run into the trouble because they can still have really, really high GWP ratings. So another interesting rule that I saw on here was that, so it says, additionally, grocery store chains with 20 or more stores will be required to meet standards for existing stores, though these requirements are more lenient than the requirements for new systems. Chains will be required to maintain a weighted average GWP of 2,500 or less by the whole chain, right? By 2026, reduced to an average GWP of 1,400 by 2030. So by 2030, even, we are going down lower than that. So right now, what's important in the HVAC field and the manufacturing field is to really get these systems out there that are built for bigger applications, but that don't take harmful refrigerants. So that's really what these new standards are targeting, is large systems that could have leaks that are causing a lot of damage in our atmosphere, but also many systems. So companies that are owning, 20 store chain, a chain of 20 or more stores, and maybe 18 of those have a leak. So, figuring how much of that is warming our atmosphere. So that's really what they're targeting here. I also really quickly wanted to swap over to Service Titan. Has a lot of good information too on their website if you check that out, but I'll just touch on it real fast. So we've got new state regulations coming in. Those are going to vary, so I'm not going to touch on those very much, nor will I touch on the Canadian regulations very much, just because it's not my area, and you guys can probably find better information from someone who is in that area. And obviously keep an eye on your state's regulations. That's what really matters here. You can follow the federal regulations all you want, but if you're breaking the state regulations, you're still going to have to pay for that. Okay, so watch for these current and proposed regulations as well as industry trends affecting HVAC equipment and operations so your HVAC company can stay a step ahead. The environmental HVAC requirements we talked about, current HCFC regulations. So HCFCs were supposed to be phased out in 2020. We still have time on those HCFCs. So this is where we run into the loopholes. So these existing systems, we do not need to take them out of operation, and we do not need to retrofit them unless they have a leak. So obviously our refrigerant is staying contained in that system unless there's a leak. So at which point, when we need to, we will have to retrofit or change. But we've been doing that with like our R22. If we found an R12 system right now, we would have to retrofit or replace. So we still have time where this isn't going to cause us chaos. We just need to keep in mind that we're not able to keep repairing that system that may use an HCFC. And then efficiency standards are changing as well. Keep an eye on the SEER ratings changes that we're going to be going through. I'm not going to touch on that in this video because I really just wanted to get into the refrigerant standards. But anyway, my point in all of this is to kind of give you some peace of mind, whereas we will have time to retrofit or replace those systems. We will have refrigerants available to us that aren't going to cost us ridiculous amounts of money. Right now, the banned refrigerants have skyrocketed, right? 22 is like $1,500 in some states to get a jug of that. What we need is to be mindful of the new regulations and be keeping our eyes out for a way to use the most natural refrigerant possible for that application. And then also to keep an eye on your state regulations. A lot of people aren't realizing that just because the EPA or AIM says that we need to do this, that doesn't mean that your state is going to be the same. There may be more strict regulations that you need to be mindful of so that you can avoid getting your HVAC company in trouble. So I just kind of wanted to touch on that and let you guys know that there's hope. It's not going to be the end of the world, but we can save our atmosphere if we really give a damn. If we care about the fact that, our ozone or our greenhouse gases are affecting our way of life, then we can change that, especially as HVAC techs and engineers and company owners. We can start pushing those systems that take natural refrigerants that aren't going to harm our atmosphere. If we can cool with them, why wouldn't we? So I just really wanted to make sure that everybody is understanding what's going on. And if you guys have any questions, put them in the comments. I can always find more information if you need it. But definitely do your own research as well. It's really important to know what those state standards are. Have a great day, you guys, and let's get through this together.